Hello and welcome to QI Podcast. I'm your host Elnura Bakan. Today we are having great guest and it is the blend of entrepreneurship, boardroom and innovations. We also will talk about marketing, leadership and new perspectives. I would like to welcome Damon Clark. Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your studio and also to Astana. I've had a great time here so far.
Great. I will have some questions about Astana. Welcome again to Kazakhstan, to Astana. How do you find Astana right now?
Well, I felt very welcomed when I got here because when I arrived last week, it was raining. Mm-hmm. As I left London, it was raining, and I arrived in Astana and it was raining.
Yeah, and you felt yourself as,
I felt at home.
Yeah.
But since then, this is a good time of year, I think, to be in Astana.
Great. You've spent some time in Kazakhstan. I think it's your third or fourth time, right?
Yeah, actually, my third or fourth year.
Yeah.
But some years I have been 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I've probably been to Astana 6 or 7 times.
Wow. So you know about Astana and Almaty. So be please honest. Which city has won your heart so far? The mountains or the wind?
Is this Astana versus Almaty?
Yes.
Well, I've been in Astana when it's been 30 degrees below.
Well.
And I was so happy in Almaty when it was -1.
Yes, it was during your...
So previously,
yes.
When I have been here. It hurts. I'm not used to -30 and it's so cold. And people here, they treat me like a child because I'm not used to the temperature and I walk outside and then zip my coat up. Yeah. No, don't do that. You have to put your hat and your coat before you go outside.
Yes.
So I've only been to Almaty on one occasion, but then it was just -1 degree and I loved the temperature.
Great. Okay. So, many visitors say Almaty feels like Europe and Astana feels like the futuristic city.
Yes.
And, how would you describe your experience from both cities, like your feelings about the architecture, maybe about your perception?
Well, to be fair to Almaty, I've only been there once for just a few days, whereas in Astana, I've had time. So I've had an official tour guide. One of our translators, he had been a tour guide when the expo was on. And he took me around all the expo venues and we went in and we saw them. So I know a lot more about Astana and the left branch and the right branch and the expo and the architecture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So any fun experience during your visits here?
I think people are always most fun because there are differences. There are so many things that are exactly the same wherever you go in the world. And then there are things that are different. My children have an understanding of how Astana is different. If you went to France and you ate snails or frog's legs, I expect your family would show an interest.
Yes.
But in the UK, we don't eat horse meat. Well, I suppose no particular reason. So my children thought it was most amusing that you eat horse meat over here, and I joined horse meat. Horse meat, I like. Horse milk, sorry, but I don't like fermented horse milk.
Okay.
So that's a big difference to me.
Mm-hmm. So the cultural thing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's like more, but I think that we have one common thing. Okay, we have maybe many different common things, but I think that in one thing, as soon as I studied in England, right? So tea with milk. I didn't have it in Europe or in US or even in Asia. But in UK, I found lots of families and people who are drinking tea with milk. Let's go to the beginning of your career. So what was your original vision when you started and how did it evolve over time?
I wanted to be a photographer. I was not a great artist, but I enjoyed owning a camera and taking photographs. So when I went to university, I learnt about scientific photography. Although no, I never did scientific photography, but I learned all about taking pictures. And that continues to this day. I've got great pictures of Astana even now, and I've taken videos and I've taken pictures. And whilst I don't use photography as part of what I do today, I love recording wherever in the world I go with my phone, with pictures and with short movies.
So your basic degree was on the scientific photography, right?
Yes, it was on, but I did a bit of science, but I think what I learned is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I love taking pictures.
Wow, that's true. It's the same about painting. When I was visiting all these museums and you see this painting and there is like explanation about this painting and it explains so beautifully what artist meant to during this painting process. And, you sometimes one painting picture can tell the story, right? The same with photography. You take this photography and then after some time it says story, a great story behind of all this one picture. Tell please about your story, like how did you start your business, why you wanted to be entrepreneur?
Well, it's easy. You said my CV is good and what I do now is amazing. And I would love to say to you, I had a plan, but I didn't really. I think the term is serendipity. Sometimes you just have to wait for things to happen. So I trained as a photographer and I worked for Kodak, but I enjoyed the film and the cameras. So I ended up working in the photographic industry rather than taking pictures. And working in the photographic industry, I then got involved in marketing.
So you've built several businesses, right?
Well, again, a lot of what I've done in life is just about being curious. So I moved from the photographic industry to the marketing industry, and I worked for a marketing agency. And then with 3 of my friends in the year 2000, we set up a marketing company from scratch. Yes. So there were just 4 people. We set the business up and we registered it and we did the process and opened the bank. And then, as most businesses do when they start, it's about who you know. And we got some small amounts of business and we had 1 client and then 2. But then we grew not by just selling more marketing business, but by having joint ventures. And we had a coffee company, we had a medical company, we had a food company, as well as the main marketing company. So we tried many things.
So what do you think, what makes a company truly valuable? I mean, beyond just revenue?
I don't know. We were very bad at choosing valuable companies. To begin with, we chose companies that we thought would be very, very successful. And we were really bad at it. So in the early days, we were looking for success. But we learnt how to double the chances of doing things right. And we stopped looking for successful businesses. And in the later days, what we did was we just made sure we didn't lose too much money in any one investment. And we were then in the business of not looking for success, but not losing our shirt and using a lot of money. And we found if we invested in twice as many businesses, we were twice as successful. It's like betting on a horse. The more horses in the race you bet on, the greater your chance of winning.
So if you're saying about winning in a business, can you take us behind the scenes of one particularly complex deal you've navigated? Because you see, you're saying you had different experiences, right? So
Yes.
And then what did you learn from that experience in business, of course?
Yes, I think you need to understand why we bought a number of businesses, mergers and acquisition. And there were different reasons for those purchases over the years. In the early days, we were merging with a company. But the reality was, when we wanted to grow, we would find one new client. And if we needed more staff, we would interview people one at a time. And that takes time to build. If you buy a company and it has 3 clients and 6 members of staff, it's like going to the supermarket and you get a multi-pack. So a way of growing more quickly was to buy or merge with smaller companies. In fact, our last merger that we did before we sold the company was we knew we needed to be a certain critical size to be of interest to public companies. So we went out and found a company that was only about 25% as big as we were. But it made us just that much bigger to make us appealing to listed companies. So we merge with companies for very different reasons.
You're right. By the way, your company, you sold your company.
A listed company
In
in London, yes.
In London, yes. So this company is existing right now, right?
Yes.
As a part of that company.
That's right. I mean, there are different markets in the stock market, and this was called the Alternative Investment Market, AIM or AIM, and that is made up of smaller organisations, perhaps turning over in pounds 20 to 80 million pounds, and eventually the company which the 4 of us had set up, and we owned 25% each. We sold our shares to a company that owned lots of marketing agencies. They were called Next 15 Communications. So they're still listed. I've no connection with them now, but they now own that business. And I moved away from it as we completed the deal.
Very interesting. So you have the experience of merging companies and selling them, and this is very good. This is very interesting experience, and now you may help and consult and advise other entrepreneurs on merging and acquisitions, right?
Yes, I mentor a number of individuals about looking at the options for how do you grow the business. Do you grow organically through joint ventures? Do you merge? Or do you just plan to sell your company as soon as you can? And if you do, how much?
Okay, so then what advice would you give to founders of companies who are starting their business or starting to think seriously about scaling and eventually selling the business in future, probably? Because, we have such a nice culture here. I mean, especially startup culture, especially in such cities as Almaty and Karaganda. We have IT culture growing. So,
yes. Yeah. Look, when you set up a business, it's your best guess that this will be something that is desirable, that will grow in the future. None of us know the future. We don't know what will be successful and what will not be successful. So I think it's easy in the early days to think that you want to find the perfect formula to be very successful. But I think as an entrepreneur, you just need to do things. As long as you can back out of those decisions, the more opportunities you take. If you set up 2 companies, you have twice the opportunity for success versus 1. So I would take as many opportunities as you can and not wait to find the perfect opportunity, but try many. We set up a number of businesses, and perhaps one of the smaller businesses we sold that was most profitable for us, I didn't get on with the people, I didn't like the product, I didn't think it should be successful, but it was really good.
You just did it. You just was putting your passion, and you just worked, right?
Yes, the future is not always as we expect it to be. Look at the businesses that are successful globally now. Who would have thought, what's the biggest company in the world? NVIDIA.
Yes.
10 years ago, they just did chips for gaming devices. Now they do chips for AI, and I think NVIDIA at this moment is the biggest company in the world. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, that's true. So if we talk about large companies and prominent companies, you've worked with them, for instance, iconic brands like Apple, Visa, Toyota,
Yes.
and many more. I saw different big names in your, the presentation of
Yes.
your company. And what, do great brands do differently than others often miss?
I think they've learnt how to scale. We didn't work for Starbucks. We didn't work for a coffee chain. But if you think about it, if you look at, there are lots of independent coffee shops in Astana, which I love, by the way. I love some of the coffee shops. There is a coffee shop in Almaty called The Argument. Great name. What a great name for a coffee shop. We should go there for an argument.
Yeah.
But what you need to do to create one or just a small amount of coffee shops is very, very different than what Schultz needed to do to create Starbucks, which is one of the biggest coffee brands in the world. So I think, I think as you scale a company, what got you here won't get you there. What makes a successful coffee shop, perhaps in Astana or Almaty, won't necessarily mean you can take that coffee shop around the world and get that same success.
So you also, I think that you are referring to marketing, branding, and other ideas, right?
Yes.
When you scale business, you have to think about branding and marketing.
And customers.
Yeah, customers, and you probably should adapt changes, right? And currently, as we know, you've just mentioned about AI and different changes, then probably marketing and all of these branding principles, they have changed a bit than 20 years ago. So in your opinion, how has marketing changed since the times when you were making your first business, for instance?
Well, first, let's look at the things that haven't changed. So 20 years ago in 2005, people were talking about marketing has changed. Do you realize what it was like in 1990 or 1985? Now, there were changes, but let's just talk about what is consistent first. And that is the people, the human beings, how we live, what we aspire, what we want in life. They're very, very consistent. Whether it's 10 years ago or 100 years ago, it's about our friends, our family, and how we fit in. So those things are remarkably consistent. I think the big change when we set up Brandwidth in the year 2000 was that we were just moving from an era when we used paper and print to communicate. If you wanted to promote a car or a product, you would print a printed brochure. Whereas now, those things have all but disappeared. And if you want to promote your product in the 21st century, it's about web and all the other digital forms of communication.
By the way, I know that your company was one of the best in digital marketing. Can you tell a bit more about digital marketing and what kind of best practices you have used for your company and for your customers?
I think it's about doing what is appropriate for the time. At the year when we set Brandwidth up in the year 2000, much of what we had previously done involved print and production and posters and point-of-sale material. But we set Brandwidth up as a digital marketing agency. And in the early days, most of what we did was setting up websites. And then we moved on from just websites to applications. And we produced a number of apps. In fact, we produced a very small game and we marketed it in the early days just to see, well, what is it like trying to sell an application, an app online as a game? And we learnt how to build it, how to put it in the App Store and on the app for Android phones. And what's it like when people pay you just pennies for this from around the world? But then digital marketing, it moved on into email communications and e-commerce. As I left in 2018, social media was not particularly big. It's enormous now in the last 7 years. And social media is so much more part of, well, how governments communicate. Look at big governments around the world. They use social media as much as product companies. Some people might be interested in the fact that when I ran the marketing business, it was full-time, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
But what I did when I left was now I try to work 10 days in a month. There are 20 working days.
Let's talk about this a bit.
I don't know the audience, but that might be quite
I
interesting
think
to
that
people.
it is because like everything is changing. And I see that you're enjoying talking about the companies and about branding and marketing, and you did such a great digital business, and I see your agility, right? And I think that one of key success point was about adapting
Yes.
and agility. But I have one question in mind. As soon as you put so much energy and effort,
Yes.
and then one day you just decided to sell it. Why it has happened?
Well, it's not something you do like you go shopping on a Saturday and think, I'll buy a pair of jeans.
Yes.
It was a decision that we took over a number of years. And I think that comes back to, why do we run the business in the first place? Mm-hmm. When you first set up a business, long term is about being able to pay and buy food at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And then when it's more established, you can make a profit, and long term tends to be next year. Mm-hmm. And we are successful this year and we're building the company, what we will do next year. But then you start to look further into the future. Mm-hmm. We've been running Brandwidth for 20 years, 2 decades, and we loved doing it. It was really good. But what was our purpose? Was I going to run it for 30 years or for 40 or for 50? Were my children going to work for the organization? Mm-hmm. And you start to look at these questions, and there's an element of, well, what do we want from life? Mm-hmm. Now, as you run a business, you make a profit and you pay your salary each year. But if you sell the business, someone says, I will give you the next, say, 5 years salary, mm-hmm. or the next 5 years profits now. Mm-hmm. Now, there is always a risk when you run a services business that your clients can go somewhere else. And you're only as good as your last job. So I think it's nice to think that, well, if I sell the business, I've got 5, maybe 6 years worth of profits for selling my share of the business. Mm-hmm. And like many places in the world, and certainly in the UK, there are tax advantages for entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. When I earned money in the UK, my tax was about 50%. So every £100 I earned, about half went to tax, leaving me with 50. Mm. If you sell your business, certainly if it's the first business you sell in the UK, mm-hmm. the government doesn't take 50%. It takes 10%. Mm-hmm. So if I sell for £100, I get to keep 90. Mm. So when we sold the business, it wasn't just about being offered, say, 5 years' salary, mm-hmm. but because of the tax, it was nearly 10 years' salary. Mm-hmm. Part of the equation then is money. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing is, if you've done something for 20 years, what are you going to do for the next 10? And it was about looking to the future, and I want to do something different mm-hmm. from 2018 on. And that's what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. So let's then move to what you are doing now. Your answer is so interesting, especially I've worked in organizations where I've met people who worked for those organizations more than 15, 20 years. And currently I see that especially young people and in this modern world, they're changing their jobs each 2, 3, even each year, and
yes.
especially with the development of project management, people go and they're hired for the project, and project can be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, maximum 2. So they work for a company just maybe several months, maybe 1 year or 2, 3. So I think that your decision was probably one of the very, agile decisions, right? You wanted to have this change in your life, and you came to another sector, right? It
yes.
is the industry of professional development and mentorship, and also non-executive board member idea.
Yes.
So tell please about this now.
Well, first, it's nice to think that you haven't got to keep doing the same thing for the rest of your life. But it's still a big jump. I was executive director, so I worked in the business, the marketing business, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And for one company, just for Brandwidth, they paid my salary. I was doing some other things, but largely I was an executive director, although when we took over smaller businesses, I was an independent or a non-executive director on those boards. But I had this vision of doing something different for the next decade. And what I wanted to do, there are approximately 20 working days in a month. And I had this vision that I would like to work for 10 of those days. That doesn't mean 2 weeks working, 2 weeks not. But it was to build a portfolio of doing different things. Now, it's worked out very successfully. And now, 7 years later, I work about 10 days a month. Although exactly what I do is not what I expected. Well, not exactly, anyway.
So are you happy that you're having such a schedule when you work for only 10 days during 1 month, right? It's dream job. So tell please about your current job. What do you do?
So I had been an independent or non-executive director a number of times before, sometimes within organizations that Brandwidth owned. And I'd worked for a charity, which is effectively a non-executive or independent director. They call it a trustee in the UK. And I'd done other board roles. So I thought, I will try to make a living as a non-executive director. And I did that. I did not get the roles I expected to get, but I got roles that I wasn't expecting. I think we talk about your net worth is your network. And I had a really good network of people. And a number of people knew about what I was looking for. And without even asking them, they made suggestions. Well, would you like to work here? Would you like to work there? So if we now move forwards 7 years, I do a combination of things in the 10 days a month. I teach professional development for about 5 of those 10 days. So I'm teaching leadership and strategy, either for organizations or directly for businesses. I do some charity work, working for charities. I sit on the board of 2 businesses. And I also work for 2 family groups, for the family office of those groups. And that's a combination of teaching, advising them on which businesses, and also mentoring some of the younger members of those families. So it's teaching, it's mentoring, coaching, family office, and non-executive director. I never thought it would be as varied as that when I started out on this journey.
Wow, very interesting, actually. I think that for you, especially, as soon as you are a very creative person, and also you have this rich managerial background, right? And you put all of these different experiences and your educational background, your professional experience, you put all that, and now you're bringing, competitive advantages to different spheres at the same time. And I think that probably you feel yourself happy, right? Happy and impactful.
Yes, but it's not just about bringing advantage to the people I work for. It's about advantage for me and my family. Clearly, you work to get paid. At least sometimes you get paid. Sometimes for a charity you may not. But you don't just work for money. You work to do things you enjoy doing. For example, my wife and I work together. She does some work in the business. So we're a team. We're a family team, but also a business team. But there are advantages. I flew here from London to Istanbul, and then from Istanbul on to Astana. When I return and I fly to Istanbul, she will join me and we'll have 2 or 3 days break in Istanbul.
Wow.
So it's nice to work not just for money. It's nice to work for people you enjoy working with. And it's nice to work in different places and share that With my wife, I've been to places with my daughter as well. If there's good shopping, my daughter is always up for joining me.
Very good. And very, especially daughters, they really like shopping, right?
And I've got two, so that's twice as much to like.
Yes, and they might probably ask you to visit those countries where they can do some good shopping, right?
Yes. Actually, can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah, of course.
I always like to become involved in the organisations I work with. I work with a care home group, and the management reports tell you how well the care homes are doing. But I always say, if you really want to find out, believe the management, but verify. Go to the care homes. And if you want to know if a care home is doing well, you need to look at the toothbrushes and the slippers. That's how you check on care. Well, I did some work for an organisation that sold handbags called Radley, and I wanted to know about them, and I've never bought a handbag before. So I said, as part of my introduction, I'd like to buy some of your handbags online. And my daughter helped me. So I didn't know how big handbags, small handbags, what colour to buy. But I bought 2 handbags, and I gained the experience of them being delivered to me, the box, the packing, the literature, what it's like to unwrap a new handbag. My daughter thought this was great. She got to keep the handbags. It was for Radley, Radley handbags.
Yes.
The only issue is my daughter is now disappointed with me because she wants me to work for Chanel. And she wants some Chanel handbags next.
Maybe someday you may have this
Maybe someday.
great chance to work for Chanel, right? She can have couple of Chanel bags for free because of her dad's job, right?
But different organizations, some people pay you more money, some people pay you less.
Yes.
Some people you do international travel. Some people you just work from home.
Yes.
Sometimes you get handbags or product.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of all of those things. Having choices in life being wealthy is having choices, and that's really good indeed.
Yeah, that's true. I can't agree more with this point, and I think that having chance to have a choice is also a freedom of choice is much more important than when you have set things that you have this, and then you can think like, where I'm a human, where is my choice, where I can make an impact, where I can do more or less, right? It's a very good point, Damon. I have now a question on leadership, and you were saying that you have extensive experience as a non-executive director.
Yes.
And right now in Kazakhstan, we are having we can say that high interest to this direction. A lot of people, they want to be non-executive director. And even myself, I also want to be non-executive director. At the same time, I'm holding the position of executive director, but at the same time, I want to be a non-executive director, not only because it's interesting or fancy or etc., but you also want to make an impact and bring your experience to this table and share your experience, opinion, and work for the interest of the company, not only for the interest of stakeholders or shareholders, but so companies would stay sustainable for many years. So my question is that I'm sure you've met a lot of different board members. So what do you think? Can you define effective board member?
I think if I had to do that with a single word, that single word would be curiosity. Some of the things you need to do are regulatory. They are formal. You have to tick the boxes. And there are certain things you need to do as part of the business. But a business won't succeed just because you have ticked those boxes and you've done the right thing. Yes, you have to obey the law, and that's a really important part of being responsible as a director. Yes, you have to have good finances, and you need to understand the finances. But then to be successful in the future, you need to be curious. You need to take risks. We don't know what will happen in business in the next 5 years. What will the world be like in 2030? And we can't wait until 2030 and then decide. We need to decide now and start just to investigate things that we think might be successful in the future. So I think the key difference between being a manager and a director is that much of what you do as a manager is about managing the business today and within this financial year or within this business plan. Much of what you do as a director is about looking to the future. What will things be like in 2013? Should we be embracing artificial intelligence? Will our products be different? Will our customers be different? So it's looking to the future.
Very good. So you think that great board member should be looking into the future and be always curious.
Yes, we use a term, put your nose in, but keep your hands out.
Yes.
You need to be curious and forever asking questions. The danger, though, is that if you have spent 10 or 20 years being a manager, you will be better than the people around you who are younger. But you're not there to take over the job and become a manager again. So you keep your hands out of the business, but you put your nose in and listen to what customers say.
Very good. I really would like to know about your personal, balance between all of these board members, because you see, there is non-executive director. There is representatives from the management, also those who are representing the interests of stakeholders. So what do you think about balancing role in the boards?
I think it's difficult to get the balance right. Human beings have survived for hundreds of thousands of years because there is a diversity of thinking in the community, whether it's young people to old people, men or women, or all sorts of different perspectives. On average, teams that have different thinking will be more successful than just one individual. So we will succeed not because we're really smart on our own, but because we're a good part of the team and the team has lots of different perspectives. I am not really good with numbers. I'm great with pictures. I trained as a photographer. I can understand finances, but I'm slow when it comes to spreadsheets and finance. But I can ask some great challenging financial questions because I won't just challenge the numbers, I'll challenge the detail behind them. And it's a diversity of thought that I can then bring to the conversation. And if there's diversity of thought within a group, whether it's a board of directors, a BOD, or whether it's just the family group at home, you'll get better outcomes if there are more opinions as part of making decisions.
So you're saying that balances that balance of opinions between all of these people, right?
Opinions and circumstance. It's great. Travel broadens the mind. It's really good if you've seen. I'm lucky now that I travel to different parts of the world and I see the same subject but viewed from different perspectives. And it certainly gives you a bigger, wider perspective on issues.
I just wanted to also ask about leaders.
Yeah.
So what kind of or what types of leadership you would like to underline, or what types of leadership you would prefer in contemporary world, contemporary situation of changes, like constant changes?
I think it's a good place to start is which leaders in the world do we find inspiring? And if you just make a list for yourself, and not just business, because whilst we can use business examples, we hear a lot more about our politicians. Now, I don't want to get into politics, but if you made a list of leaders, whether they were dead or alive, and your list included sports people, and business, entrepreneurs, maybe politicians, maybe religious. It's always interesting, I think, to make your own list of leaders which inspire you. And then perhaps you become a little bit more like those leaders. But do make a list of leaders that you don't like as well. And I think it's important to look in more depth at leadership styles that you don't like. Perhaps you might change your mind, or perhaps you'll reconfirm the reasons you don't like them. And then you can build your own version of leadership, whether it's in your family environment, persuade your children or your nieces or nephews or your brothers or your sisters, or it's in work environment. Because we lead at home, we lead socially, and we lead at work. And we also follow as well.
It is interesting to know what are some of the leadership blind spots you've observed even among the most experienced executives. Maybe just mention a couple of blind spots.
I think when you join an organization, you join because you have a skill set. And if you like, be the youngest, newest person and the most junior person in the organization is employed for skills. Whatever those skills are, whether it's a barista making coffee or a young journalist. And most of what you do when you start in your career is about skills. If you stay with that organization through your entire life and you get to the top and you become the chairwoman or the chairman of your organization, I think a very small part of your role is the skills you had when you joined. And nearly all of your role is about people. I think being the chair of an organization is the ultimate people role. And it's about leadership, getting people to work together, teaching the next generation, finding people to work for you, and then developing their skills once they've joined you. And there's this swap throughout your career between it being nearly all the skill set that you have when you start to when you finish, or the most senior. If you look at Jensen Huang at NVIDIA, if you look at Tim Cook at Apple, some of the biggest companies in the world, most of what they do now is people management, team leading, inspiring people, and talking to people about the values that they want them to have.
And I think that it's the most challenging thing about leadership, right? Like working with people, working for people, inspiring them. And people are so different, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's really like as a person who also I have very probably few experience of people management, but still I think that it is one of the challenging things I've ever did.
I think you have got experience of people management. I think you have a brother and a sister.
Oh yeah.
How do you manage them?
Yes.
Especially your brother.
Yes, that's true.
Because we manage and we lead as much at home and within our family environment as we do in business.
Yeah, so you can say that all women, especially if they have kids, they are cool managers, right?
Absolutely.
They're great leaders. So all the leadership is done at home by mothers, right?
Well, and fathers have some sympathy for those fathers who have daughters to manage.
Yes.
That's a tricky task.
Yes, that's true. So let's talk about a bit about your non-executive experience.
Yes.
What do you like the most about this experience?
I think now, in the early days, when you want to be a non-executive director, you want to expand your knowledge. You want to know more things so that when you turn up to do the job, you turn up with a toolbox. You have in your mind lots of skills and lots of things that you want to deliver at the job. And then when you get there, you start to combine a number of these tools in your toolbox together. And that's really about being skillful, whether it's about how much you pay people or employment contracts or offices or expansion or mergers. And I still use those. I still use my knowledge, my toolbox of knowledge, and I do apply skills by using those elements of knowledge together. But I think as you become more experienced, it's about mindset. And you approach it with, this will be interesting. I must have an open mind. Because ultimately, the common theme amongst all businesses is people. And I've worked for care home groups, and there's a lot of emotion, a high EQ in care home groups. I've worked for legal organizations. They tend to have a higher IQ, intelligence. The way they approach their challenges is very, very different. But you know what? To address some of their issues, once you have peeled off the language they use, their opinions and how they approach things, the essence, the core of what they want to achieve is very, very similar. And I enjoy finding that similar core thread by using the mindset to approach the roles that I now take on.
What is the similarity? Can you just mention a couple of them, please?
In a way, I mentioned one of them earlier. The problem with becoming a director is that you often do it after many years of being a manager. And then you go into a room which is for a BOD, a board of directors, and you have an agenda for directors. But the people in the room try to turn it into a management meeting. And you have to remember that there is a difference between being a manager and a director. And then when you become a director, it's too easy to think that you are there for compliance. And yes, you have to obey the law. You have to look at regulations. You have to make sure the organization is doing the job properly. But it's easy to do the management and the direction without doing the leadership. And the leadership part is telling the people that work with you that they are part of a team. We're going in the right direction and we're doing a good job. And to explain to them, yes, sometimes things are really difficult. And if your board of directors is making a bad choice, understand that sometimes they perhaps only had 3 or 4 bad options, and the one they've chosen was the least worst. When you manage, you often manage and you decide the best things to do. When there are no good choices, that's when the board directors have to choose. Have some sympathy for your politicians. Everyone thinks they should make a better decision, but often there isn't a perfect choice out there. Kazakhstan is making some decisions and its politicians are deciding now. But your politicians haven't got all good answers or all good options. They have to make difficult choices. And I think if you understand that your leaders struggle and it is difficult to make these decisions, you can then sometimes understand why they take the decisions they do.
Yes. And for this, people need some IQ and EQ, of course. Yes. So again, if we go back to the educational perspective, right now, as you know, for instance, if we are talking about leadership and about non-executive roles and overall about director's role, we have to, I think, mention about those organizations which are working in these directions very hard. And I have to mention QID Association, Kazakh Independent Directors Association, and its role. And you work with QID for a while. And you've met lots of directors from Kazakhstan. And my question is about what do you think about the activities and work done by QID, and also about the directors you've met during the leadership and strategy course?
Now, I've worked with QID for probably 4 years now, but I'm really impressed with what they do. But what I think they're best at doing, actually, I don't think appears on their website. And yes, they will teach directors to be better professionals. And if you associate with QID, you will be a better leader and you will run better organizations. But the group I'm working with over these weeks, I'm in Astana now, I think one of the best things, one of the best outcomes is that you have brought leaders and directors together from all over Kazakhstan. And they are introducing each other to the first times. We have the telecoms industry, the power industry, transport, education,
Mining,
many different
yeah.
industries. And it's that introducing people from the same country, and they all arrive and they think they have, the atomic energy people may think they have a different issue to address than government. But when we look at it, their language is different, the way they approach issues is different. But ultimately, the issues are so similar. And building a network of people in Kazakhstan, a network of independent directors that know each other and have a good network, I think that is good for those people, it's good for their businesses, and it's good for the country.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. There are lots of events, webinars, different strategic sessions happening around the topic of corporate culture, about leadership, strategy. And you are very...
Can I just comment on those?
Yes.
When you choose to do a webinar, I think you can't choose the perfect webinar, one that's going to be absolutely great.
Yes.
I think webinars are fabulous, but I would make sure you do at least one a month.
Yes.
And then after 12 months, you will have watched 2 webinars that were great.
Yes.
You will have watched perhaps 6 that were just all right. And there were a couple that, well, they weren't really for you.
Yeah.
But you can't tell this in advance. But if you do one a month for a year, across 12, you will learn. But then sometimes I did a role in the UK. I worked for local government. I didn't enjoy working for local government. I found it hard work. They liked to stop innovation. They didn't like entrepreneurs. At least that was my view. But I think 5% of what I learned was really good. I learned so much from government. 90%, 95%, it drove me mad. 5% was really good, and it was a good lesson, and I still use those lessons today. So when you say go to webinars, don't try and find the perfect person, the perfect webinar. If you don't like a political leader, if you don't like a business, listen anyway. See what they have to offer.
Yeah, that's great. You are absolutely right. That's why, especially, myself, I'm a constant learner. I watch a bunch of different podcasts and webinars and different, Coursera courses.
Yes.
And I think that I was taking different certification courses each 3-5 years, and I really love this process of learning something new. And I think that what we are having in this certificate and company direction course by Institute of Directors of UK, one of the greatest certification course I'm having right now, and I think that it has great content, quality content,
Yes.
information. It's all updated, new, adapted for the modern and contemporary trends and so on. So I also now want to ask a couple of questions, and then I think that we can have some coffee after this podcast, right?
Yes.
Okay, so looking back, is there anything you wish you had known earlier in your career and development?
Yes. It's so easy to look back and think, well, I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done that. But if you learn lessons in life, most of the lessons come from things you got wrong. When things succeed, it's because you think you're practically perfect and you knew everything about it. Whereas the reality is you probably just got lucky, or at least there was a good element of luck. When things go wrong, you tend to learn from those mistakes. You learn certainly not to do them again or the same way. So I don't look back on life and think, I wish there were all these things that I didn't do. But I do think perhaps I should have tried more things, taken more opportunities. You're always incredibly busy, whether it's with family, whether it's for your friends or whether it's business. I think if I'd have taken twice as many opportunities, twice as many good things would have happened. So it's very hard to fit those opportunities in when you have family and you have business and you're doing many things. But I think do twice as much stuff. You'll be twice as happy.
Very good. So you're welcoming hardworking and like living your full life, like getting the life, right? You're saying and you're giving the advice to give more and have more, right?
Yes.
Perfect. And especially if I wish a young generation watch this podcast later when we release it. And I hope that they will take a good advice from you.
You listen to what I've said, young generation.
Yes. One of my guests of this podcast, once I said, I have my favorite questions and I'm going to ask. And he says, are you going to ask about my favorite book? So, I will not ask about your favorite book, but probably I will change this question. It's always like that people give books. They gift books.
Yes.
So what was your recent books you've gifted from your friends and family?
Can I answer the question you said you wouldn't ask me first, which about my favourite book?
Yes, of course.
Because it's actually my favourite book isn't by an author and hasn't got a title. I do enjoy reading books, but I learned relatively recently to listen to books. Audiobooks. I use Audible. Now, and I listen to a lot of business books on Audible. To begin with, I would sit down in a comfortable chair, and my problem is if I listen to an Audible book sitting down, I fall asleep. But I found that actually, if I'm commuting, if I'm traveling, I can listen to Audible books. And I find Audible or similar really good indeed. And I've listened to many business books that way. I'll listen to a book. When you are listening, if the author says something you think is a really good point, you can clip it. You can say, record that 30 seconds. So if I listen to a book on Audible and I really enjoy the book, I'll then buy a paper copy and I'll remember the clips I recorded and I'll mark them in the paper copy.
Very good.
And I think that's a really good way of learning. And there are some books out there that are great to read, but you may never get to them. But if you can listen to them when you're traveling, I've made really good work, really good use of my time by listening to books when I travel. So it's not one magic book. It's a technique for understanding books. Not everyone likes that. Some people like only to read. There are some book summary websites that some people like. But to me, listening to books is great.
Super. Very interesting life hack you shared, I think. I also, by the way, like listening to books because as soon as you are having such a busy life, I sometimes listen to books even during the gym time,
Yes.
or traveling or, in the airplane. And it's saving your time and you also can do something very efficient for yourself and for your development.
But actually, I can suggest one book for your younger viewers to read.
Yes.
Everyone's younger than me, but younger viewers.
Okay, yes.
One of the best-selling books in the world is on company and business change. And it's called Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese? And it's about 2 mice and 2 human beings.
Wow.
It will take you about 1 hour to read, and it's a great story about change in our lives. We all love change if it happens to somebody else.
Yes.
But not if it happens to us.
Yes.
So this is about two mice and 2 human beings that live off a big piece of cheese and what happens to that cheese. So if you want to get a book, I don't think it's on Audible, you have to read it, but it's only an hour. Who Moved My Cheese? Great book.
Very good. Thank you very much for this advice. I'm going to read this book, of course, and especially if it it relates to change, actually, as you know that my passion is change topic, and I have certified last year for change management. And, you know, the only constant thing is actually change.
Yes.
The only constant thing that happens to companies, to people, is change. The best way to be probably successful is adapt that change, and probably work with that change and bring that change to other people. So yes, and probably one of, I think, we can, I think, talk about a little bit about success before we finish our podcast. How do you define the word success?
It's a really difficult one, isn't it?
Yes,
Because,
that's why I left this question to the end of this podcast.
And the problem is, if you define success as getting a job and earning a good salary, what do you do when you've got a good job and you earn a good salary? What's next? I think success means different things in your life. When I was in my 20s, I'd left university, and success meant getting a job, buying a car, and flying somewhere. I think in my 30s, success was about having a family and getting married. In my 40s, it would have been about paying for the children. So I think success means different things. There is an underlying theme that remains consistent throughout your life. But in each decade of your life, there are some things that change. But other things are remarkably successful. I think success is being healthy. You might not think it's important until you're not healthy. So I think value your health. That's an important part of success. Success is keeping in contact with old friends and knowing people. It doesn't matter whether we only speak once a year, but keep in touch with people and have a wider network of people. I think those are the sorts of things that are really enduring for success.
Very good. Thank you so much. I agree with you. And let's be successful. Let's be healthy. And I wish we all of us have more healthy and truly happy family members.
Yes.
And of course, also friends and colleagues. When everyone is healthy and truly successful,
Yes.
by your definition, I think that life is getting better, and we all have, you know, different new ideas and a new mission and vision. So I hope that this will make our life better.
Look, the world is a great place with great opportunities, and people are so friendly and helpful. One of the negative things about social media is that it's almost you scour the entire world for finding just the bad things that have happened. But it would be an incredibly big social media if you scoured the world to look for good things. And, you know, when things happen really bad, and there are some really bad things that happen in the world, but generally underlying those things, there are great opportunities. People are welcoming and they're friendly. And it's amazing what you get if you just ask.
Very good. I agree with you. By the way, do you have social media? Do you have Instagram or Facebook?
I do use social media, but I suppose as you get older, I use Facebook just to keep up with where some of the family members and the people I was at school was many years ago. For business, I use LinkedIn. So fortunately, having a name like Damon, Damon, Damon Clark, it's easy to find someone on LinkedIn. I work with you. You'll find it mentions Astana and Kazakhstan.
Yes.
So I do a little bit of social media, but digital isn't the only way to communicate. We can go for a coffee too.
Yeah, that's great. Then let's have some coffee after this podcast. Okay?
Let's do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, Damon. And it was really great to have this podcast with you and have this discussion and exchange of nice ideas. And I hope that you will be coming to Kazakhstan, next time probably Almaty. I hope that you will see Almaty during summertime or autumn, so you will enjoy all of this beautiful, green, yellow, orange colors
Yes.
and all of this beautiful mountain view. We're so lucky. Actually, Kazakhstan is so diverse, and I hope that you will be discovering Kazakhstan from different sides during all of this, your nice visits.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I've loved being here and look forward to coming again.